second time in less than 4 months, defeated Donovan Razor Ruddock in a unanimous decision. Charlie Steiner saw the fight ringside. He's standing by live, joins us from Las Vegas. Charlie?
Chris, it was a fight that I guess Mike Tyson feared the most, because he was saying going in that he was going to make mincemeat out of Donovan Razor Ruddock, but lo and behold, all the criticism about Tyson, his inability to box and move, was shown tonight. He went the distance with Donovan Razor Ruddock, knocked him down twice, once in the second, once in the fourth, won a unanimous decision, but wasn't really all that impressive. Mike Tyson is on the podium now, as you see. The news conference is going to begin in just a moment. Wally Matthews, our ESPN boxing analyst, is joining us on the set now. And Wally, I guess your thoughts are basically the same as mine. We didn't see that much out of Mike Tyson tonight.
No, in fact, I think we saw basically the same fight that we saw the first time, Charlie, and that is Ruddock basically a one-handed fighter and Tyson a real inability to deal with him.
Standing by in the interview area was Al Bernstein, who unfortunately was unable to talk with Mike Tyson, who breezed right past the interview area. Al, what are your impressions of what we saw tonight?
Fighting my way through. I feel kind of like Godot, you know, waiting for nothing to happen. We waited for Ruddock and for Tyson. Tyson breezed through here, and Razor Ruddock is not going to be here or at the press conference. To me, Razor Ruddock, again, a one-dimensional fighter. Only the left hook, Charlie and Wally. You can't win with that, and yet with that, he was able to rock Tyson a couple times. Mike Tyson, maybe not a superb performance, but he did throw that counter right very well.
All right, Al, welcome back to the media center here at the Mirage. We'll send it up now to the podium for the post-fight news conference. Mike Tyson, the unanimous decision winner.
Yeah, we're ready. I don't think there's any question. We had a great evening of boxing. And without further ado, Mike, everybody's waiting in the world and in this room to hear your feelings on this wonderful evening. Mike, your feelings? Your feelings about this evening, now that you've had a little chance walking over here to think about it?
Yeah, it's a tough fight, man. It's tough.
I tell you what, Mike, try this, Mike. This is a better mic. Here be a better. It certainly was a war. How do you feel about this?
It's pretty tough, yeah. I mean, I'm exhausted. The 12 rounds went real fast. I didn't know. I didn't know. I thought it was the 6 rounds or something.
I don't think anybody out there thought that Ruddock was going to be around at the end of 12 rounds. Did you?
No, but he was tough and determined.
Did he hurt you at any time?
Yeah, he hurt me, yeah.
Did it surprise you at all when you hit him and he went down and he got up?
No, he's that athlete. I knew he was going to get up.
One time you lost your mouthpiece and it stayed on the canvas for a long time. Did it bother you?
Not at all.
He was pretty beat up. We haven't seen him yet, but you sure gave him some punishment.
Well, you know, he fought a good fight.
I know a lot of people were surprised that you were a little light. I don't think you were, or your guys with you. But do you think that made a difference on this hot at night?
It was just a tough fight, and it was very hot in the ring. You know what I mean? It's good that I got a fight. I didn't have a 12 rounds like that in a long time.
Okay, now we're ready for questions. Okay, Alan, we got a kite. Go ahead, go.
Yeah, Mike, was this your toughest fight beside the Douglas fight?
It was it was pretty tough in there. It was just a good fight. No, I can't agree. I don't know. It was a good fight, man.
Is that just Mac working?
Put it right in front of me.
I can't hear.
Speak up, baby.
Mike, you're disappointed in the number of warnings and having
Iron Mike Tyson, who wins and somewhat unimpressively in what he says was probably his second toughest fight. Wally Matthews, the one, of course, in Tokyo, one that I guess nobody will forget. And I guess we're beginning to forget the old Mike Tyson. He has simply, as the critics have said, and you're one of them, he hasn't been the same since.
I don't feel like we saw the old Mike Tyson tonight at all. In certain flurries, he did look like he could throw the same combinations if he wanted to, but he fought in spurts for the most part, Charlie. He really did. He would flurry for 30 seconds and then fall into clinches for 30 seconds. And Mike Tyson was never like that in
So briefly, let's look ahead about a possible fight with either Evander Holyfield or George Foreman. One would think both of them have to feel a whole lot better tonight than they did this morning.
I would think if anything else, Holyfield will make Tyson work a lot harder than he wants to work right now. He'd make him work a lot harder than Razor Ruddock did. You know, Ruddock was throwing an average of about 30 punches a round, which is nothing.
And the fact that Donovan Razor Ruddock was able to take Mike Tyson for 12 rounds, essentially fighting with one hand.
You're right, because again, his right hand was not a real factor in the fight. Most of his damage was done with left hooks to the body and head. Very, very few jabs. I'll tell you one thing that did save Tyson tonight. He's got a heck of a chin. He got hit with some solid left hooks.
Yes, he did. This is Tyson in the second round, and now to the fourth round. That's the punch in which Tyson loaded up and would deposit Ruddock on the seat of his pants about halfway through the round. In round 6, the first half of the fight, Tyson seemed to control reasonably well. And there was some question going in about the 238 pounds, the additional weight, which seemed to be a benefit in the long run for Ruddock.
It seemed that it wore Tyson down a bit later in the fight, but I'll tell you something else. Tyson did not put a lot of pressure on Ruddock. If he had put more pressure on, maybe the weight would have been more of a factor. And I'll tell you something else. There were 2 knockdowns in the fight. Ruddock down both times, but they were both basically flash knockdowns. He was up quickly, never really hurt.
I never got the sense that Ruddock was hurt at all. You're taking a look at round 8, the evil eye of Mike Tyson, which is far more menacing than most of his punches tonight.
You know, Tyson did a lot of his damage also after the bell. There were numerous after-the-bell exchanges. Ironically, it was Ruddock, the one who lost a point for a late blow in the bout. Really, Tyson had initiated most of the late rounds after the bell exchange.
In fact, Tyson was penalized a point for a low blow in both the 9th round and the 10th round. And both were delivering low blows in the 11th round. So this was not a fight in which the Marquess of Queensberry would be terribly proud. And I suspect that Don King and Mike Tyson have to rethink perhaps their marketability in terms of the way they're going to be negotiating with the Duvas.
Now, one thing we should mention, though, is that in the ring immediately after the fight, Tyson said to Ruddock, "We'll fight again." And Ruddock said, "Definitely." So who knows?
Well, we may see Tyson Ruddock 3. Let's go back to Chris Myers. We'll return to Las Vegas shortly. Chris?
All right, thank you very much, Charlie and Wally Matthews. We will, of course, have further reports from Las Vegas on the Tyson-Ruddock fight coming up on SportsCenter after the baseball game you are watching. We return you now to the game you're enjoying here on Friday Night Baseball.
You've vindicated. Who's next for you? Hello? Now that you've vindicated as the greatest heavyweight champion, who's next for you?
I'm just gonna go home and relax. I'm not even thinking about fighting now. I'm just gonna go relax.
Mike, do you have new respect for Razor Ruddock, or do you still feel the same way about him before the fight began?
Well, can I tell you something? I guess, I don't know when, but I can see I can tell we're gonna fight again.
Mike, it looked like after 2 rounds that we might be looking at a short fight. What was it in the 3rd round that kind of turned it around, made it prolonged?
He came fighting hard. He had a good fighting spirit tonight.
Did the heat affect you at all?
It was pretty hot, but regardless, I was just confident about the fight.
Mike Tyson, a winner by unanimous decision. Charlie Steiner and Al Bernstein were in Las Vegas for the fight. They'll have more on SportsCenter after the game.
A heavyweight night of sports. Iron Mike and Razor Ruddock dance in the desert again.
Tyson-Ruddock rematch is over. First, there's a slight chance that we won't have to listen to Don King for at least a day or two. And second, maybe now the controversy surrounding the first fight can finally be put to rest. Well, maybe not.
Well, the controversy about the stoppage of the fight by Richard Steele the first time may be put to rest, but a new controversy. How much have the skills and how much has the enigma of Mike Tyson been eroded? Ruddock and Tyson threw bombs for 12 brutal, fairly dirty rounds, and the final outcome was one that none of the experts in Vegas had predicted. Charlie Steiner anchors our fight coverage from the Mirage. Charlie?
And welcome back to the Mirage here in Las Vegas, where some questions still remain about Mike Tyson, despite the fact he won a unanimous decision over Donovan Razor Ruddock tonight. Tyson improving his record to 41-1. Ruddock's record drops to 25-3-1. The judges' scoring was fairly decisive. Dalby Shirley had it 114-108. Art Lurie had the same score, 114-108, and Chuck Giampa had it 110, make it 113-109. Joining us now, ESPN boxing analyst Al Bernstein. Again, I think the big story tonight, not so much that Tyson wins again. That was fairly well expected. The fact he went the distance by, again, primarily a one-handed fighter, and the questions remain about his skills.
Well, Mike Tyson wanted to show us tonight that we had the old Mike Tyson back, the great Mike Tyson. No, what we saw tonight was a very good heavyweight in Mike Tyson, who won and won decisively. But we didn't see him jabbing his way in. We didn't see a lot of head movement. We didn't see terrific body punches, though there were some, and we didn't see the combinations like we have seen in the past. He's been very good right now, but we don't know if he's great anymore.
The second round was the round in which we saw the first knockdown of the fight. In fact, the only two knockdowns of the night were off the fists of Mike Tyson. This is the second round. A left hand would eventually put Ruddock down. In the fourth, a right hand by Tyson would lead to the second knockdown of the fight. In round 6, Razor Ruddock threw a right hand sparingly, and through the magic of videotape, we finally see one.
I'll tell you what, we have all the right hands he threw in the fight on these stills, probably. And there's another one.
In round 8, Ruddock lost a point due to a hit after the bell. He was penalized a point. This is not a fight in which the Marquis of Queensberry would be very proud. Mills Lane penalized Tyson a point for a low blow in round 9. In round 10, Donovan Razor Ruddock, lo and behold, another right hand. But the real right hand of the night, the overhand right by Mike Tyson in the 11th round, and a left hand by Tyson in the 12th. Pretty well sealed the deal for Donovan Razor Ruddock. And after the fight, we heard from Mike Tyson. But, of course, after the fight tonight, Ruddock did not show up. Here's some of the proceedings.
I hit him hard, perhaps somewhere in the 8th round that hurt him, but he wouldn't go down. He was stung pretty bad. I don't know what punch it was, but I think it was a straight right hand. He was stung pretty bad, but he stuck in there.
When he did hit Tyson and hurt him tonight, he just stood there and looked at him. And he allowed Tyson to get away from him. But had he have hit him, and when he did hurt him, stepped to him again, I believe he might have did something. That might have changed the course of the fight. But he was standing there, looked at him a little too long, giving him time to recuperate from the punches that he had hit him with.
Well, I know I heard him good with some body shots, and I know that slowed him down, because I could tell that it was going to probably be a long fight. So I hit him with some good body shots, and he slowed down pretty much.
There's a reason why Razor will not be attending the press conference.
That's correct. He's very disappointed. He felt that he had Mike Tyson. One more punch, he could have knocked him out. He took the best of Mike, but hey, Mike got a good chin. Mike prepared himself well. Those are the two best heavyweights in the world you just seen perform.
Somebody who certainly is chomping at the bit back home in Houston, Texas, George Foreman, another fella back in Atlanta, Georgia, the heavyweight champion of the world, Evander Holyfield. He, too, must be fairly hungry for a Mike Tyson fight based on tonight's performance.
Well, there's only really 2 fights out there for Mike Tyson. The Holyfield fight, which I think most people would like to see for the championship, but the Duvas and Don King will wrangle over that one. So the Foreman fight becomes interesting, too. I said it after the last Ruddock fight, and not much has changed in my mind. Very tough at this point for Mike Tyson to beat either Holyfield or Foreman, because they bring to the dance things that will beat him. Foreman brings uppercuts and left hooks just like Ruddock threw, plus an excellent jab which will land against him. And Holyfield brings hand speed, and if he gets to throw all those punches against Tyson, he'll hit him with them.
And one of the things we have learned about Mike Tyson over the years, when he has difficulty, it's against taller men. And both George Foreman and Evander Holyfield are considerably taller. Let's go back to SportsCenter.
And speaking of George Foreman, we've heard that there could be a bout worked out within 3 to 5 days with Mr. Tyson.
Well, interest certainly peaked for that bout because of Tyson's performance. As Al Bernstein said, Foreman is the kind of fighter who could give Tyson trouble. I think the jury's still out on Tyson, though. I think that Ruddock can take a punch, and that may explain why Tyson doesn't look like the old Tyson, because he hadn't fought a guy that can take a shot like that.
And Mike isn't used to going 12 rounds either.
On the undercard of that fight, Azuma Nelson retained his WBC...